SnowTrax is sponsored by Polaris, Think Outside, Skidoo Snowmobiles, Yamaha, Revs Your Heart, and by iPone Lubricants, exclusively distributed by Parts Canada.
Right here is a 2023 Skidoo Renegade G5 X RS. Now for 2023, obviously this Renegade, because it's an 850, goes into the new G5 chassis. G5 is still the same tub and tunnel, still the same suspension as the previous version G4, but what has changed is the bodywork, the headlights, and a bunch of other small little changes that truly add up to a whole lot more than small little changes. They become something greater when put together, and I found that Skidoo for 23 has really started to fixate onto these little changes that make massive, massive improvements for you, the rider. Some of them that you're never gonna notice if you've never ridden a G4. Number one being the 850 motor having a fourth motor mount. You're gonna say, okay, what does a fourth motor mount do for me? Well, what it does is it reduces vibration on the snowmobile. Along with all of the matting that Skidoo has put inside this new bodywork, it means that you get both noise, vibration, and harshness reduced. It's called NVH. Reduced NVH means when you're riding the sled, you're going to feel less vibration. You're going to hear less motor noise. You're going to be able to experience the snowmobile ride in a way that is much more refined than the G4, and I really appreciate that about this snowmobile. There's some cool little things that Skidoo has changed. The LED headlight obviously is going to improve your nighttime riding massively, and we've been waiting for this for a few years. But there's some small things. Take the drive shaft, for instance. It now can be removed from the snowmobile without dropping the lower chain case gear. This is huge. It means you don't have to mess with the oil. You don't have to change your chain case oil. You don't have to do anything if you want to change a track. And for people buying a snowmobile at this price level, you may want to change the track. You may be keeping the snowmobile longer than the track has life for. And so that's something that's really important, because now a track change is so much easier to do at home yourself should you want to make this choice. Another cool thing is the rear suspension link has now been turned into a really easy to install system where the actual tunnel standouts drop right into the suspension, and it doesn't take you very long to take the rear skid out or likewise put it back in. These are small changes that go a long ways for people who like to work at home, who like to do their own maintenance on their sled, who maybe want to do some changes or suspension updates. This XRS Renegade has the Smart Shock system on it, which is the first true semi-automatic suspension system. So you still have control over your 3 settings that you want to put the suspension at, but then within those 3 settings, obviously, the brain inside Smart Shocks reads through multiple different sensors on the shocks and in the suspension, and it knows where the suspension is at, and therefore it's updating multiple times a second, tweaking your ride, tweaking your compression, making changes, and making sure that you get the best ride possible. It does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it delivers a ride quality that you just don't find elsewhere. Now the 10 1/4 inch gauge is really intuitive, it's super smart, and it's very easy to work with, especially with the new hand controls on the left side. Everything is beautifully packaged, it works really well, and you can adjust your shocks, you can look at the different settings of the sled, you can find out if there's fault codes, all kinds of cool stuff here. Now, one of the things I really appreciate about the change from the G4 to the G5 is the ease of getting the bodywork off of this snowmobile. It takes almost no time to get the hood off this sled. There are 4 fasteners. They use the same tool, and the tool is included on the bodywork of the snowmobile. So taking the hood off takes just a mere minutes, which is really nice because other manufacturers have quick access, easy quarter turn locks or whatever it might be, and you can get everything off and get access to the engine. Skidoo has now made this way simpler. It's down from like 20 fasteners and 4 different tools to 1 tool and 4 fasteners. Really simple, really nice, and this allows you to be able to have the confidence that if something does need to be looked at under the hood, you can do this trail side. When it comes down to the ride and quality of the snowmobile, it hasn't changed from the G4. This still delivers an exceptionally good ride. The R-Motion in the rear skid with the Smart Shocks is buttery plush. It gives you all-day comfort, and the Smart Shocks just enhances all of that goodness of R-Motion. Up front, RASX is a really laser-focused front-end suspension. It keeps it stuck to the trail. The rider-forward design that Skidoo has been touting ever since the first rev is at work here. There's a lot of ski pressure on this snowmobile, but that's just the way that Skidoos ride. They definitely are stuck to the trail on the front end, which is something that most Skidoo riders really appreciate. Overall, the 2023 XRS G5 is just a top-notch snowmobile. If you early ordered one of these things, you are not going to be disappointed. There's all kinds of choices and options you can get, within the sled. You don't have to have Smart Shocks, you don't have to have the 10.25-inch screen, but at the end of the day, both of those things are just super nice. They work great, and Skidoo has taken the word refinement and just taken it to a whole nother level within the snowmobile industry.
SnowTrax is sponsored by Hercules Tire. Ride in our strength.
We're headed to Franklin County, New York this week to do some trail riding, and I'm particularly excited about this trip because this is the first time in over a year that I've been able to cross the border and ride some trails outside of my local trail system. So this is a really easy drive from where I live in Ontario, Canada. It's about 6 hours to get to Malone, New York, which is where we're staying, but it's only a 2-hour drive from Ottawa, Canada, and about a 3-hour drive from Syracuse, New York. Now, I know people that drive that every weekend just to ride trails in cottage country. I mean, if you're thinking about going for a good destination trip, you should definitely take a look at Franklin County.
After a good night's rest at the Holiday Inn Express right in the town of Malone, we headed over to Adirondack Power Sports on State Route 37 to pick up our rental sleds and to meet our guide for this adventure, Chris Labarge.
Oh, very good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too. This is great. The weather's awesome.
Yeah, Mother Nature brought us some nice white stuff.
Oh, you can't ask for better than this.
Yeah, you're going to really enjoy the trip today.
I'm really excited about it, really.
Chris is a great guy. He's a mover and a shaker, and he's really had his hands in the organization and development of snowmobiling in Franklin County. Connectivity to the trail system right out of the dealership parking lot is excellent. It weaves back through town into some of the nicest trails I've ever ridden on.
Why is snowmobile important to Franklin County? It's a major tourism driver. It brings a lot of economic impact. In Franklin County, we have 50,000 people, and we're the third largest county in the state of New York. When you have that low population, people need survival. In the off seasons, we get a lot in the summer, and what we're really trying to do is bring that tourism industry that it's so badly needed in the off season, and snowmobiling can do that.
Before we went on this trip, I kept hearing how incredible the trails were in Franklin County. You gotta come ride here. It's amazing. You won't believe it. Look, I've ridden trails across Canada, the US, Norway, Finland. I love trail riding. It's my favorite type of snowmobiling. And I gotta be honest, they weren't lying about the trail systems in Franklin County. Impeccably groomed, wide trails with a mix of winding hills and straightaways and gorgeous scenery. I always say Quebec is the benchmark for snowmobiling, and I feel like this is New York State's version of Quebec snowmobile trails.
So one of the first steps is I went to an initial meeting for Franklin Snowmobile Inc. and just started to inquire on what their grooming schedule was. And what we learned is that the schedule was one in which they groomed during the day. They only groomed during the week. The schedule wasn't the standard of what grooming is. Grooming is A, at night. B, you got to groom when people are riding at night, which is on the weekends, so that you have the best experience. It gives it snow time to set up in that 4, 5, 6 hour, depending on the outside temperature. And then that trail system during the day through traffic will last much longer.
So I didn't really know what to expect when we went to Franklin County out of the trail systems, but we're in the Adirondacks and, so we're climbing beautiful hills and the scenery's gorgeous and things are opening up to, freshly groomed trails and, the speed limit's awesome. So we're just letting it rip. It was just a lot of fun.
So now we have loops, right here out of Malone, multiple, from 50, 60 miles to 200-300 mile loops that you can take in or over into Clinton County. You can go into St. Lawrence County. You can get down to the south part of Franklin County. It's just really what type of experience. Do you want a straight trail or do you really want some twisty, windy, scenic mountain views? Do you want to stay in the valley? You choose. You can get it here in Franklin County because we cover from the St. Lawrence Valley all the way to the high peaks of the Adirondacks.
After border closures and canceled vacations and not being able to travel into the US, I was really excited to just be out riding trails again and be surrounded by snowmobilers who were just as excited as I was to be out riding.
SnowTrax is sponsored by Princess Auto. Make it work.
We invited our friends from SnowTrax to come over and ride with us. Hooked them up with a couple of snowmobiles, and we went out riding for the day. We traversed across, the village of Malone. We hit Corridor 7, made a couple of stops, in particular in Mountain View, just to kind of show them that, we got some services, a couple of facilities there. Then what we did is we said, hey, let's take them off on what we believe is some of the best experience trails that you're going to find probably anywhere in New York State and a lot of other places in the country. I've ridden in Michigan as well as up in Canada. And I got to tell you, we've got a wide variety. So I said, let's traverse towards Standish Line Mountain on the Wolf Pond Road. Then I took them on S83. We made a few stops there. And then we got them on our secondary trails, S84, it's the Sable Highlands, if you look it up in the Adirondack Park, and it's just a beautiful ride on a logging road that's groomed anywhere from 12 to 16 feet wide, and it's just smooth.
So up to this point in our adventure, I'd been so impressed with the conditions. It had been snowing steadily since we left Malone, so our spirits were high, and our little Indy 550s were, well, they were just doing great.
We jumped down on our Thatcherville Trail, had a chance to run along the river, kind of get that experience as well. Then continued back on Corridor 7, and we stopped to Charlie's.
We were cold, damp, and hungry, and luckily rode right into the parking lot of Charlie's Inn, where we could dry off, warm up, and have some lunch.
In Franklin County for snowmobiling, so got a couple of places that you can enjoy some food and a little bit of warmth, as well as you can get gas at Charlie's. We had lunch at Charlie's Inn and we continued on Corridor 7 south. And that just creates a different experience. Now that the rails are out, this is a section that, New York State just pulled the rails from Tupper Lake to Saranac Lake and Lake Placid out. It's the new rail trail. It is groomed, 12 to 14 feet wide.
So after we left Charlie's Inn, our next destination was Tupper Lake. And we hopped on the newly developed rail line. Trails were smooth and beautiful, and fun fact, the speed limit from Malone all the way down to Tupper Lake is 55 miles an hour. So we were just unleashing heck with our little Indies. Franklin County has everything that you could ask for out of a snowmobile adventure. It's a close drive from Ontario, Montreal, and Syracuse. The snow is abundant and the trails are incredible.
So as we came into Tupper Lake, our final destination for an overnight was at Sheehan's Motel. When we get to the train station, as we're heading south, you take a left, beautifully groomed trail. So in Tupper Lake, they got multiple motels that, opportunity to snowmobile directly into.
What a day, seriously. As we arrived in Tupper Lake, the trail opened up right across the street from Shaheen's Adirondack Inn. Again, snowmobile friendly, restaurants close by, gas. It's a cool little town.
So we finished up after checking in at the motel. We went to Racket River Brewing to really kind of finish out the day, get something to eat, and really kind of talk about the overall experience with our newfound friends from SnowTrax.
As much as I want Luke, AJ, and Mark to come ride here and experience what I did, I'm kind of feeling like if another trip comes up, I want to jump on it again because for me, Franklin County is my own little not-so-secret riding spot, and I can't wait to come back. Malone was a great starting point for this trip as well. There's Adirondack Power Sports and Roberts Sports if you need anything for your sled. There's ample accommodations, there's restaurants, and most importantly, they welcome snowmobilers. Plus, if you're looking for something to do after a long day of riding, the Akwesasne Casino is close by as well.
So when you really look at Franklin County and what are we trying to accomplish, we're trying to really demonstrate that we've got awesome trails that are flat, well-groomed, well-signed. We've got services, and I think most importantly, we have low traffic. And I know there's a lot of places that have done a great job marketing, but they have extremely high traffic. We don't have that experience here in Franklin County. That's what people are looking for. You have access to services throughout the county, and you have access to other counties. So, you know, if you're going to come here and you want to make Malone your destination and do multiple loops, you can do that for 2, 3, 4 days. If you say, hey, you know what, I'm coming from another county, and I want to tour in and I want to kind of experience the trails in Franklin County, come to Malone, come to Franklin County and enjoy the trails, enjoy the services and the good friends that you'll find here.
SnowTrax has been sponsored by Arctic Cat Snowmobiles, the regions of Quebec by the sea. Discover our ride ideas. FXR Racing, maximum versatility for all conditions. And by MBRP Performance Exhaust, built for the victory lap.
Yamaha has an awful lot of Sidewinder turbo snowmobiles for model year 23. In fact, Yamaha has so many Sidewinder turbo models, even we can't keep track of them. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to review the Sidewinder LTX SE 137 with the turbocharged 998cc triple under hood. We do admit that we just tested the Sidewinder LTX LE, which is an upscale accessorized model, just last year. So what is the difference and what is the rationale behind Yamaha offering two 137-inch LTX models, one as an LE and one as an SE? Well, we're going to try and explain that to you. Here's the difference though. The LE has a custom front bumper, it has a mid-height windshield, it has a heated seat, it has a much bigger custom storage bag, and it has upscale QS3 shocks. So the difference is in a lot of bolt-on or add-on accessories that you could go to your Yamaha dealer after purchasing this SE model, and you could add all of those or some of those or none of those. You could add and make your SE more or less an LE. It is a little confusing to have these two separate models come from the factory, one fully accessorized and one not. However, it does give the purchaser more options in a marketplace where prices are escalating because of inflation, and the selection of snowmobiles has been really tough to get what you want at your dealer. So you can make your choices at your dealer, and you can save some MSRP on this SE model. So if you wanted to ask me a question about this snowmobile, it might go something like this. Hey Mark at SnowTrax TV, are you telling us the real deal, the truth, that the motor is exactly the same in an SE as an LE? Yes, I am telling you the truth, and here's the description. It's the Genesis 3-cylinder, turbocharged and intercooled, 998cc, 4-stroke mill. This motor, and let's just pull the sheets off this once and for all, okay? It's 200 horsepower. I mean, we've been giggling and Yamaha's been giggling. Nobody around our top secret world headquarters doubts that this thing puts out 200 horsepower. So, what are you getting with an SE? You're getting the same driveline, same clutches. You're getting the same rear suspension, only a damper change. So let's talk a bit about the rear suspension. The LTX 137 SE and LE for that matter have their 137-inch tracks for a very special purpose. These are not off-trail snowmobiles with the 137 1.25 lug track. These are on-trail snowmobiles that take advantage of the mogul bridging effect of a 137-inch track over a 129. And so what you've got here is you've got a slightly lengthened version of the sliding front arm skid. Let's talk about that. Your front torque arm on the 137 and the 129, what they call SR skid frame, is in a yoke, and it moves back and forth freely as the skid's front arm goes up and down. But when it hits a big bump and couples on the rear coupler blocks, it locks the yoke against the torque arm bracket in the front, right down where your ankles are on the side of the tunnel. It locks that up, and then it becomes coupled so it can handle the big bumps without bottoming out. I know some of our viewers kind of think that we've got the best job in the world, and we actually do, because we get to ride all the latest, coolest stuff and then give you our opinion on it. So here's something I'm going to do. I'm going to give you sort of an inside rationale on how we think this SE LTX model can maybe answer the call of helping offset the rather large increase in MSRPs we're seeing. So here's the thought. Because the LTX SE is downscaled, doesn't have all of the accessories on it that the LE does, because of that, it has a lower MSRP. Now, don't get mad at me. Yes, the MSRPs are up, but if you're looking to save a few dollars and to get value for your money, then the SE may be the sled for you to buy if you're looking for a 137 Sidewinder turbo. Obviously, you can add any of the LE parts throughout the period of ownership that you have with the sled and accessorize it to your heart's content. We don't doubt that there's a certain segment of our viewership that just isn't tracking with this whole high value thing on a snowmobile that's priced as high as a turbocharged Yamaha. Frankly, we completely understand that and know what you mean. However, on the other hand, there is always a segment of the marketplace who's looking for the most value for their money. And in our opinion, the LTX 137 SE does exactly that. It gives more value for your money in a class that is not low scale, but very upscale.